A single sound can destroy a life. In the heavy, sulphurous air of the forbidden bush, the dry branch snapped beneath Aminah's foot like a crack of thunder. The silence that followed was suffocating. Deep within the green mist, the colossal Anansi spirit paused, its multi-limbed shadow freezing in the air. Slowly, intentionally, those piercing yellow eyes turned away from the altar of blood and fixed directly upon the giant Iroko tree. Kwame spun around, his face stripping away every ounce of human warmth, replaced by the raw, dangerous instinct of a predator whose trap had been uncovered. Kwame did not shout. He did not scream. He simply stepped away from the glowing smoke, holding his burning torch high into the humid night air. When the flame caught the bright orange frill of Aminah's wrapper snagged on a wild thorn, the truth settled into his chest. His own wife had tracked him to the gates of hell. He drew his iron hunting blade from its leather sheath. The steel hummed softly in the dark. He spoke her name not with love, but as a death sentence whispered to the trees. Terror gave Aminah wings. She turned her back on the nightmare and threw her body into the uncharted darkness of the jungle. Without a lamp, she ran blindly through the thick brush, guided only by the sparse silver beams of moonlight breaking through the heavy canopy. Sharp thorns sliced into her skin and shredded her orange wrapper, but she felt no pain, only the cold, metallic taste of panic in her throat. Behind her, the heavy, rhythmic thud of Kwame's hunting boots crushed the damp earth, closing the distance second by second. But a hunter was not her only enemy tonight. Above the towering trees, the ancient master of the web moved through the canopy like a shadow over water. Its spindly, giant limbs cut through the thick branches, leaping from trunk to trunk with terrifying speed. Glowing green threads of dark magic spun from its limbs, drifting down like toxic spiderwebs to block the natural pathways of the forest. The spirit was hunting for another soul, and Aminah was caught in the middle of its sacred woods. Bursting into a small clearing, Aminah gasped as she hit a dead end. A massive, sizzling wall of green energy stretched across the path, sealing her away from the village road. She turned, her back pressed against the burning web, only to see her husband step out from the dark foliage. His torch illuminated his cold, unblinking face. There was no mercy in his eyes, only the desperate need to protect his fortune, his fame, and the dark bargain that kept his fields green. Surrender meant death, and Aminah refused to become another sacrifice under her husband's bed. Reaching for her throat, she ripped away the sacred wooden necklace given to her by her late grandmother. With a desperate prayer to her ancestors, she hurled the wooden beads against the glowing green web. The sacred wood reacted with a blinding explosion of white light, shattering the dark magic and tearing a hole straight through the spirit's barrier. She dove through the gap and ran until the ground suddenly vanished beneath her toes. She stood at the edge of the muddy ravine, a terrifying rocky gorge with a roaring river raging far below. The only way across was an old moss-covered log bridge. Behind her, Kwame's torch re-emerged from the smoke. With no choice left between the knife and the drop, Aminah stepped out onto the slick, rotting wood, balancing her life over the abyss. Nature is unforgiving to those who hurry in the dark. Midway across the gap, the decayed wood groaned under her weight and snapped in two. As the log plunged into the black waters below, Aminah screamed and reached blindly into the night. Her hands caught a thick, fibrous jungle vine hanging from the high canopy. She swung wildly through the misty air, crashing hard into the muddy bank on the opposite side of the canyon. Bleeding and soaked in river mud, Aminah pulled her body up the steep incline. Across the wide, impassable gap, Kwame stood on the cliff's edge, his torch shaking in his hand. The broken bridge had saved her life, but as Kwame stared at her through the fog, his voice carried across the ravine with chilling promise. He would take the long mountain path around, and by sunrise, he would make sure the village believed she was insane before she could utter a single word. Stumbling out of the dark woods, Aminah finally collapsed onto the soft dirt roads of her village. The peaceful clay huts slept quietly under the pale pre-dawn light, completely unaware of the horror hiding in the forest. Kneeling alone beside the community well, bruised and exhausted, Aminah wept into her hands. The physical escape was over, but a far more dangerous battle was about to begin, convincing a village that their beloved hero was a monster. The creak of a wooden shutter broke the morning quiet. Elder Osei, the village chief, stepped out of his compound holding a brass oil lamp. When his eyes fell upon the mud-soaked, blood-stained woman weeping by the well, his lamp trembled. Aminah grabbed his traditional robes with shaking hands, her voice breaking as she begged him to lock the village gates and hide the children from the hunter who claimed to protect them. As the first golden rays of the morning sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, a shadow appeared at the far end of the village path. Kwame was walking into town, calm and composed, carrying his longbow and a fresh basket of tender meat on his shoulder. Elder Osei watched in horror, but Aminah stood up, wiping the mud and tears from her face. Her fear was gone, the hunt was over, and the time for truth had arrived.